Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Get to our best bets later this hour. We've got Joe Bowen, Jim Ralph coming up from the rink. Leafs Devils tonight. Kevin Harlan later in the hour. The great Bob Uecker passed away today. 90 years old. What a career. You know, he was a professional ball player himself, made it to the major leagues, but then just the voice of baseball, like Vin Scully, Bob Uecker, like those are the guys. Harry Doyle from Major League. Just one of the great supporting cast characters in a sporting movie ever is Harry Doyle from Major League.
Yeah, like that just a bit outside.
The greatest.
I mean, you're throwing...
Just a bit outside.
I mean... Tried the corner and missed.
Yeah,
so it's like
how are they? What does he say at the end? We got to play one of these clips. Is it the full thing we have, JP? We get the full thing. Let's play some Harry Doyle here. Right? We have to because we love Bob Uecker. We love Harry Doyle. Let's play here's a great clip from the movie Major League.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches.
And I think he goes on to say, I don't know how they're laying off these pitches.
How they're laying off. That's just incredible.
So good.
And the beauty of it was, that was just Uecker being Uecker.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just, as he said many times, like he was just being himself up there. The guys that produced the film came to him. They wanted him to be Harry Doyle. They only saw him as Harry Doyle. And they said, just be yourself.
Just go in there and do your thing. It's like hiring Don Rickles.
Yeah.
It's like just go in there and just be Don Rickles. Be Bob Uecker, and he had some great commercials. He did stuff with WWF. Remember back in the day? Remember Andre the Giant, like grabbing him by was choking him, like pretending to choke him out at one of the WrestleManias.
That beer commercial must be in the front row.
Yes,
that great
the Miller Lite.
Great phrase must be in the front row, and they put him in the back row.
Yes,
they actually have a statue in the highest row in Milwaukee. There's a statue of Uecker sitting up there.
Oh, that's incredible.
So it's the second. He has got 2 statues. I don't know anybody that's got 2 statues. He's got one out in front of the building. Bob Uecker does in Milwaukee because he's a Milwaukee guy, born and bred, who did how many years of baseball
he was
the radio.
Play-by-play guy for like 60 years or something.
Amount. I think
someone had a stat out that he has called 3.5% of all baseball games ever.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand that math. I don't quite get that. Like Major League Baseball has been around since like the 1880s or whatever.
Yeah.
But
it's only been on radio for a certain amount of time.
I guess so.
I think Vin Scully had a similar stat.
And he calls every game every year for that long. I mean, you're going to call a lot of ball games.
Yeah. But he has 2 statues.
2 statues. That's pretty good.
And I loved his line when they asked him about how was the process of getting the first statue made, and he said, well, they tied me down to do it, and when they pour that molten metal on you, it's hot.
He was so good, man. You can find him on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
He had some great sets with Johnny Carson back in the day.
Carson called him Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. All right, we got Leafs Devils tonight on TSN Radio, and to help us tee up the game, let's head down to the rink now. Here's Joe Bowen and Jim Ralph. How you doing, boys?
Good, lads. Just thinking a little bit about Bob Uecker ourselves and having, one of the things, my 4 boys can recite the entire dialogue from Major League from start to finish without cue cards, without anything, and it's probably because of Uecker.
Yeah, I agree. It's my favorite sports movie, man. Major League to me is the greatest sports movie ever created. And
well, not.
Yes,
it runs
you're not
right
going to say Rudy. You're not going to say Rudy.
He's going to say Rudy.
Of course it is. Yes.
Stop. I love Rudy. Rudy's a great movie. It is a great movie, but
it's no Youngblood.
Okay. Do you have one, Dave? You want to throw it?
That's a good point. I starred in Youngblood, so I should maybe be pumping that tire a little
right,
bit. Hey, what do you think?
You getting royalty checks for that, Bonesy, or what?
You kidding me? I piled them up. They're about 3 cents a year, so I'm just waiting till they accumulate, and then I'm going to cash them all in.
I like it. Well, we were saying that there was a stat circulating again about how many games Bob Uecker has called, in terms of obviously with Brewers and playoff games and all that. Where do you think you stand, Bonesy, when it comes to Leaf games? I guess.
Well,
I mean,
I will do my 3700th game next month.
Wow.
The thing that I'm most proud of, I think, is that the building we're sitting in and the box that we're sitting in, the Foster Hewitt gondola, he did 41 seasons, and I've done 43.
Ooh.
That I'm most proud of.
That is worthy of being proud.
And it won't get a statue, and it won't get a golden handshake. It'll be a foot on the rear, and out the door I go.
No, never. That's not possible.
Get Bonesy a statue.
Yeah, we got to get you a
that's
statue.
what I need. Yeah, and have pigeons stop on me all through the rest of my natural unborn life. No, I think that'll be fine.
Okay. Ralphie?
It'll be more than the pigeons.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to stop by too, are you? Oh, well, that's great.
Well, let's
nice
not assume I'm leaving first.
Now,
Yeah,
guys,
exactly.
I'm going to mention this in our broadcast tonight. As we all love Bob Uecker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting next to hockey's rendition of Bob Uecker right here. The man has an unbelievable sense of humor. He's a great analyst. He knows stuff about hockey because he's played it and everything else. But he has a talent to enjoy the game, and we've talked about this many times. It's not World War III. If it wasn't fun, no one would come to the games.
Mm-hmm.
And this man is hockey's rendition of Bob Uecker, and for 27 seasons I've sat here and laughed out loud almost every night at something that he has decided that he's going to bring up and present. So I want to make sure I pump the tires of my buddy over here.
What are the odds I get on Johnny Carson then?
He's dead.
That's what I asked.
So I don't think you got a chance. But you know what? Maybe we could get you on
Fallon?
The morning show? No, live, or what's the one with the four girls?
Oh,
The View.
The View.
Yeah, we'll get you on The View.
Ralphie
there you go.
would be great
There
on
you
The
go.
View.
I think you'd fit
he'd
in
be
very
great
well on The View.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Oh,
I'd have to just apologize for 20 minutes.
That's right. That's all. You better backpedal if you're in there, Ralphie. That would be quite uncomfortable. I think.
Yeah, that might be the end of the career.
Yeah, well, there you go. And what's the mood like down there? I mean, we're trying to get a read. There were booze on Saturday, booze on Tuesday.
You know what? Let me go downstairs.
Yes.
And some of the people that are coming in, what's your mood?
Is
Have
it-
you got mood today?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
are we expecting booze tonight? I mean, that's what the theme of the week has been so far.
Yeah, but can someone please start putting the standings in the newspapers?
Yeah.
I mean, this they're in first place. Holy smokes, we went through years of not even seeing first place, looking up at the standings. And it wasn't the whole building booing them out. It was a smattering of whatever, and your point was well made.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, it might be one game a year. You got to save up and you've got to go, and you think you should be entertained to the max, and people should have that expectation. But, yeah, if you said at the start of the year, okay, in January you're going to be in first place ahead of Florida, ahead of Boston, ahead of Tampa, would you boo?
No,
I
take
think
it.
you take it.
Fair point.
And certainly, even New Jersey comes limping in a little bit, and we're talking about what a great season Sheldon Keefe has had. This is all part and parcel of the season. I would say I would be much more concerned if the Leafs were on the Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning 60-win pace. Because
Really?
Both of them were gone in the first round when they won 60 in the regular season. So I'd be a little more concerned if things were too easy. I think it's great to fight adversity during the regular season. You lose 3 in a row now. Then maybe if you get down a couple in a playoff series, you've got the resolve knowing you can battle back and win it. So it's an 82-game schedule, and everybody's going to have these ups and downs. And I think they've sort of flirted with this for a while because all the wins against the Islanders, Philadelphia, everything was a one-goal game. And that could have gone either way. So, they've been sort of teetering on this, and sometimes you need that wake-up call to get back to what made you a lot more successful earlier in the season.
Well, guys, we were discussing earlier in the show, the situation for the Canadian teams and which Canadian team would be the favorite to go far in the playoffs and win a Stanley Cup for the first time since '93. And Hayes and I were talking about it, and you want to put Edmonton there because they got to Game 7 of the final, obviously. Winnipeg has been the best team, but they've had some playoff hiccups. And then there's the Leafs. But the point Hayes made was that the gauntlet in the West, when you look at all the good teams out there, from Winnipeg to Minnesota to Dallas to Vegas to Edmonton, it's a lot more daunting than what you might face in the East, with Boston having a down year and Tampa having a down year. And, this Devils team that's in here tonight is good but unproven.
Washington, the same thing.
Well, Washington is a surprise.
Yeah,
You guys,
exactly.
but what do you guys make of that in terms of the road?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that the really good teams in the West are probably a little bit better than the same schedule or the same teams that are buttonholed in the East. But you know what? I mean, the physicality of the teams like Tampa and Boston, Washington is all going to come to bear on whoever is successful in getting out of the East. So there's no easy road, and it's not any easier. The West, of course, has to travel maybe a little further, but you know what? That's why they choose to live out there, so the hell with them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we didn't tell you to do that.
No.
You got a problem with these?
Everything was really nice in the 6-team league when everything was over here.
Exactly.
You got on a train, for crying out loud. You got to travel to road games and everything.
That's right. Well, I like that optimism, and I'm curious what you guys make of, Tavares being injured. He goes on the IR, and now Max Domi's going to move up. This is a position that it would appear as if Brad Treliving's going to try to attack it and try to add to it and try to find some depth, even with a healthy John Tavares. But how much optimism do you have that they'll get through this injury and guys are going to step up the way that they have to?
Yeah, well, it's happened before, right, AZ? Mm-hmm. Fraser Minton coming up. When Matthews was out, he had 5 points in his first 6 or 7 games being recalled, and I think sort of the silver lining in the dark cloud of an injury that obviously is going to hurt you as far as the loss of production. I think the reason they were so good early in the year, other than just goaltending, was that the game was really simplified. It was dump and chase, and they were scoring goals that were ugly goals, and you're going, wow, this is playoff hockey. This is the way Craig Berube wants them to play. I think they've sort of gotten away from that a little bit. The dump and chase hasn't been there as frequent, and this might just be a reminder that, boys, we got to play a certain way to be successful, and sometimes it's taking an offensive weapon out of the lineup that gets you back to that.
Yeah, and in terms of Jake McCabe's return, Bonesy, I mean, you can really feel when he's not around, can't you?
Well, he and Tanev have really gelled together to produce, and I'm trying to think back, when was the last bona fide number one shutdown pair on defense that you said these guys are really good at it? And
I don't know.
It's going back maybe a couple of decades.
Who did Roman Pollock play with?
Whoever he wanted to. But and so they have gelled well together. They block shots. They're not flashy. I've said this before. Chris Tanev is the team's most valuable player to this point in time, in my humble estimation. And what's he got in the points department? Goal and 12 assists. Mm-hmm. So I really think that because this team had gone through the issues of not winning in the postseason, even though they had all of this offensive talent, that when Craig Berube was hired, the mandate was passed down that things are going to change and the style of play has to change. And the tandem of Tanev and McCabe probably personifies that. That's how we have to play. They got to block shots. They got to be good in their own end. They got to make little passes to get out and not turn the puck over. And that's what they've done for the majority of the time that they have been together and the way this team has played up to this point. So I would suggest that having him back, even though they're losing Tavares, it's a huge bonus to have McCabe back playing with Tanev again as that shutdown pair.
Yeah, big time. And it looked scary. I mean, when he went down, and that's 2 head injuries in the last month and a half, there was a lot of uncertainty when he would return, but he's back. He practiced yesterday. Jake McCabe said he feels good and he's ready to play tonight. Ralphie, will get you out of here on a Joseph Woll question. And Bonesy, you play the position. Him running out.
I have the equipment.
You have the equipment anyway. Yes, you fill the net. You fill out the equipment. You do play. You're on the game sheet as the goaltender.
I don't know if they have sheets.
I hope not. In terms of Joseph Woll, without Stolarz the rest of the way, up until, let's say, the Four Nations face-off, if Stolarz does not return, do you expect him, let's say the next 3 games, tonight, Saturday in Montreal, Monday against Tampa, does he play all 3 for you? Should he play all 3? Or do you think they're going to be cautious with him and keep sneaking Hildeby in, maybe get Matt Murray back up and spot duty because they just don't believe Woll can play that much.
I think it's going to depend on his performance. The reason he doesn't play against Vancouver, I think, was related to having a tough night against Carolina, and not that he was terrible, but because of what he has shown us early in his career, that sort of set the standard of what our expectations are from him. So I think, you know what, he has a tough one tonight. Maybe you say, okay, we got to make a switch, and Hildeby's going to play in Montreal. So, even though Joe and I are huge fans of Joseph Woll, I don't think anybody should really just be at the stage in the Leaf crease where you're just given an opportunity because you've got more experience. I still think the reason that Stolarz and Woll work so well together was there was a competition, and I don't think we just take the competition off the board and say, Joe, it's your ball, you run with it till we get the other guy back. I still think you might be able to use Dennis Hildeby and say, you know what, there's still a competition here, and you still got to play to a reasonable standard before you get back in the net.
And no team in this league, I think, ends up not having to at least utilize 3, maybe 4, and in some cases more goaltenders out of their depth. And the Leafs have to be pretty pleased with what they're seeing with the Toronto Marlies. And Hildeby has looked like, after getting over that one game where he looked a little jumpy and
Columbus,
whatnot, he has played well.
Well, we'll see what comes of it tonight. Leafs Devils on TSN Radio. Joe Bowen, Jim Ralph with the call. Always appreciate you guys doing this. Have a good call tonight. We'll do it again soon.
You bet, guys.
There it is, Joe Bowen and Jimmy Ralph. Pregame coming up as well with the Tap Man down there. It's going to be a fun one tonight.
Yeah, it's an interesting question about Joseph Woll. They got 10 games in, I think, 23 days between now and the break for the Four Nations. So it's almost every other night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of it's what Ralphie said. Like, it's about, he hasn't been perfect, and you don't just deserve starts because you deserve them. But I think some of this is also just injury. It's like injury precaution, like pre-injury, load management, for lack of a better term. Just to say, we know this guy can get hurt. He has been hurt, and we don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, listen, his numbers have been very good. They're a bit more bloated recently because of the Carolina game. You give up 5 goals. That's going to
it's going to hurt.
It's going to sting. You gave up 4 against Dallas. There were no empty netters, so 4 against Dallas. Like those, that's going to affect your statistics. But prior to those 2 starts, he was top 10 in save percentage.
Oh, yeah.
Up there in goals saved above expected, all that kind of stuff. And Stolarz, like the two of them as a pairing, have been everything you could ever ask for. And Ralphie brings up, I think, a very important point that probably doesn't come up enough. Just because you were on the team, in other words, Hildeby's up, so he's your inferior. Maybe not. I mean, you still got to earn your keep. You can't let your guard down and just think I'm starting every night because I'm the NHL guy with a contract. And
I'll tell you what, Berube would probably like it to be like that.
Well, based on merits.
Yeah.
Yes, and I would too. Don't get me wrong. If Woll plays well, I'm playing him. I've made that very clear. I would not be bubble wrapping him and saying, I got to be careful here. If you're playing well and Stolarz is out, I think it's imperative that they chase that top seed in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
So play him. But if he plays poorly and he's leaking oil, you're not just going to put him in there. He's not Hellebuck to the point where you say, I trust he'll break out of it just for the sake of it, or what other option do I have?
But you don't need to be an expert to know you'd take Joseph Woll on an off night over Dennis Hildeby on most nights.
Generally speaking, that is true.
You don't need to be an expert to know that.
No.
That's just eye test.
But Woll hasn't been in the league long enough. He hasn't been around. It's not like this is some grizzled veteran in the league.
No, but everything we've seen has been generally pretty
very
good.
Very, very good.
When healthy.
Yes. And that's the caveat is when healthy. But no, Woll's been he's been really, really good as a pro when he's played. And they're going to need him here again because we don't know when Stolarz is going to return, and they got some tough games coming up. And again, they go through Western Canada. They've got Minnesota coming up.
Really tough.
Yeah, like you've got Jersey tonight, Montreal, Tampa, Columbus, Ottawa, Minnesota, Edmonton, Calgary, Seattle, Vancouver. Seattle's the only team there that's kind of out of it, right? Like Montreal and Columbus in the playoffs right now. Montreal and Ottawa, based on points percentage, are right there in a playoff hunt.
And they're hungry teams.
So there's nothing easy over the next 23 days. These are 10 tough, contested games. And you got to rack up as many points as you can get. TSN 1050 wants you to be our unofficial correspondent at the grittiest golf event of the year. To enter, you got to download the iHeartRadio app, create an account, listen to TSN 1050 for at least 15 minutes straight. Once you hit 15 minutes, follow the prompts to complete your entry, whether it's 15 minutes of First Up, 15 minutes of Overdrive. The more you listen, the better your chances. And on Monday, First Up will be calling one listener with a trip for two to the Waste Management Open in Arizona. That is a big tournament. Nick Taylor will be back there defending his championship. He is currently playing at the Amex. And last time I checked, he was 6 under, I believe.
Good. Yeah.
Like, he's in the hunt. Yes, it's Thursday. Long tournament, massive field. They play multiple courses down there. But
he's hot out of
Nick
the gate.
Taylor's red hot, man. Nick Taylor's red hot, and he's in the hunt. That's all you can ask for.
That's good news, man. It was tough to watch him struggle last year, missed the President's Cup team, and when a lot of people figured he was a lock. I mean,
well, in Montreal,
and
he's a winner.
He's a clutch player.
Yeah, I think you look back on it now, they probably wish they just said, "Screw it, man, we got to bring him."
If it was my decision, I would have had him on the team.
Yeah, I think they needed more Canadians there.
Yeah.
But
they probably weren't going to win anyway. It's a political game. It's a political game. You got to
be careful. It's the international team.
Appease all these different national federations. There's a lot to it. Mike Weir that's not an easy job.
No, it's not. JT Poston 10 under today. He's currently in the lead. But yeah, Nick Taylor shot 7 under. He's in the clubhouse. So Taylor's in the hunt. Nick Taylor's back in the hunt. And you know when he's in the hunt, that's generally means he's chasing the real deal, man. So we'll be tracking Nick Taylor tomorrow and throughout the weekend for sure. Kevin Harlan coming up. Kevin does it all. Basketball, football. He'll be calling the Chiefs-Texans game on Saturday for Westwood 1. We'll catch up with Kevin. We'll get to our best bets powered by FanDuel later in the hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, best bets later in the hour. You see we're on to the weather updates for the 4 football games this weekend. Like that's where that's the part of the week we're at, right? And it's like, okay, Sunday night, Buffalo, January. It's going to be cold.
Breaking news.
Might be cold.
Going to be chilly.
Possibly some snow. Although no massive snowfall, which is big, right? Like they had that issue last year where they had to move the game back. I think it was last year. Seemingly every year there's a massive snowstorm in Buffalo.
The volunteers out for $20 an hour and a couple of beers to shovel.
Doesn't sound like that's going to be the case this year. But, the line is flipped. It opened Buffalo favorites. It's flipped to the Baltimore Ravens. I find everyone you talk to has a different answer on this. And we were talking to Cause earlier. Yeah. Matt Cause came out and he's like, "Oh, Baltimore
in a blowout."
Like he had no hesitation.
No,
Matty was a believer that the Baltimore Ravens would win this game. I see it differently. I think Buffalo is going to win this game. I think it's going to be a great game. I think they're tough. I think that's a big part of it. Like, yes, you look at the skill set, you look at Lamar, you look at Derrick Henry, and I know the defensive line for Baltimore is very substantial,
very good,
very stout. But I think the offensive line for Buffalo is going to be up for the fight. And I think Josh Allen's just going to spread the ball around like he's been doing all year. James Cook's going to break loose. I like Buffalo, man. And I also look at Lamar, and I am a believer, and I've said this before, at some point I think he's going to snap out of it and go on a great run. And it could be this year, clearly. Obviously, it could be. But the last couple of years, he's had a very good first game in the playoffs, and then it's completely fallen off the cliff.
Yeah.
Because he plays a weak team in week 1 at home. They run away, and then they run into some adversity, usually on the road or against a good team like Kansas City, like last year, and he just doesn't do it. So I have more faith that Josh Allen's going to perform than I do Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, like Lamar Jackson might as well be nicknamed Maple Leaf Jackson because he's been a playoff underperformer.
Yes, he has.
And with all the regular season stats in the world.
The greatest.
Incredible regular season stats. Very Maple Leafy. And I'm with you, just like with the Maple Leafs. I've been picking them to break out of that many times, and I've been disappointed many times that my pick was wrong. So, I until I'm not picking Lamar Jackson anymore, just like I'm not picking the Maple Leafs to win in the playoffs anymore.
Right.
Because I'd like to be surprised instead of humiliated that I believed in the wrong course.
Fool me 5 times, shame on me.
Right.
At some point, it's like, okay, maybe I need to figure this out. And yes, Josh Allen is not Mahomes. He's not. But if Baltimore were to be playing Kansas City this week, everyone's take would be, I can't take him over Mahomes. Allen has been phenomenal in the playoffs.
Yeah.
When he's lost, he's run into Mahomes.
True.
Like, and Mahomes got him. Like the last couple of years, Mahomes just got him. Last year, they missed a kick late.
I know.
Right? They missed a kick. That would have pushed it to overtime. The year before was the famous 13 seconds left. What are you doing? How could you let that happen?
That was on the coach.
Josh Allen was amazing that game.
Yeah.
He was really good last year. So
Allen's never disappointed.
Allen's never disappointed.
He's never disappointed.
Right. And
he's never been the reason they've lost.
He's never been the reason they lost. And he's not Mahomes, and McDermott's not Reed, and the Bills are not the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. But Allen and the Bills, in my opinion, are closer to the Chiefs than they are, choke artists and losers or whatever. And when I look at Lamar versus Allen, as I said, if it was Lamar versus Mahomes, I'd be like, I'm not taking Lamar over Mahomes.
Yeah.
I'm not taking Lamar over Josh Allen. Like, I think Allen will outperform him this week.
I think you're making, lumping Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in the same category might be a bit of a stretch for some people, especially people in Kansas City, and especially people that look at career resumes.
Not saying he's as clutch. He doesn't have them.
No.
He doesn't have them. But he's been very, very productive and very good in the playoffs. Lamar has not. So I think Lamar's got to prove that he's going to show up more than Josh Allen.
I don't think there's any doubt that Allen will perform, but that might not be enough.
It may not be. It may not be. Here he is from the NFL on CBS. Westwood 1. You see him in the NBA, NFL. You see him everywhere.
Incredible.
Here he is, the great Kevin Harlan. How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, guys. Good to be on with you. Thanks for having me on, and I cannot wait for this weekend. It's going to be the Indian. I've just been listening over the last 2 minutes to your conversation on Lamar and Josh, and it's going to be a back and forth, nip and tuck all the way to the finish line for the MVP. I think the game will be just like the voting for MVP. I think this game will be very, very tight, and I think both quarterbacks will perform at a great level. And if there was, in every playoff cycle, we always talk about, is this really the Super Bowl? In a lot of ways, I kind of feel like this is one of those games that you could circle and say, these are if not the two of the best teams in pro football, and I think it's going to live up to the billing. Weather's going to be, as it always is, it's going to be bad in Kansas City on Saturday, cold and maybe some snow. It's always challenging in Buffalo, but I think we're going to see great performances from these two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm pulling for that. I just want to see a great ball game. I think it'd be perfect for NFL fans. You see Lamar and Josh Allen go back and forth and let the better man, better team win in the end. And, you'll be calling the Kansas City game. I believe the Chiefs are going to beat Houston. Let's presume that happens. I'm not asking for a prediction, Kevin, but let's presume the Kansas City Chiefs are still standing after this. Is there anything the Bills or the Ravens can do on Sunday that would lead to you or collectively the NFL world to believe, okay, I saw enough on Sunday that makes me believe next week they're going into Arrowhead and they're going to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs?
Defense and running. If Cook runs well, and he's had this terrific season, and Josh is Josh, and if Lamar is Lamar and Henry is running like he ran all season long, I'd give either of those teams a good shot at the Chiefs. The thing that is unique about Kansas City, in addition to, being a two-time reigning defending champion, they've lived with this target on their back all season long, and so they've gotten everybody's best shot, and they have found ways to win. They have won close games, and while they've not been overpowering like the Bills and Ravens, who at the times really been just stunningly good, the Chiefs have just kind of gone through this season picking and poking their way to one win here and a close win there, and never really blinking with this big target on their back. I think that accounts for something. I think that means they'll be, and they're rested. We know that their starters haven't played now for 3 weeks going in to this game this weekend. But I think that a running game can travel and defense can travel, and which leads you to think that both these teams, the Bills and the Ravens, have that running attack. They both clearly have the quarterbacks Can the defense come up with some plays? And then turnovers. I mean, we hear the same thing every big game. It's turnovers. Who can run the ball? Who can control the clock? Who can have long, sustained drives? But these are two offenses with the Ravens and Bills that can do that. And Buffalo's already beaten Kansas City. So either of those teams, the winner goes into Kansas City if the Chiefs beat Houston. And I think those elements will be very, very effective against the Kansas City defense. And I have great respect for what they've done. But Buffalo and Baltimore just seem to have the things that could really, pry at what the Chiefs have done this season. I think they could break that mold. I think they'd have that kind of momentum coming out of the game this weekend into Kansas City at Arrowhead next week for the AFC Championship.
Look at the other side of the bracket, Kevin, and with the NFC games. They're both, fairly big numbers on the point spread. The Lions favored by 9.5 over the Commanders. The Eagles favored by 6.5, depending on where you look, over the Rams. Which of those two underdogs do you give a better chance of making this a tight one?
Well, I don't know that I do. I don't know that I could even separate them. I guess Matthew Stafford, being a veteran quarterback, is always, that's got to account for something, whereas Washington has a rookie quarterback, right? So it gets down to, what quarterback is going to play the kind of game that they can play. The one thing I would say about Washington is that they've got such a found money type of mentality. They're not supposed to be in this game at the divisional round. They have a first-year coach. They have a losing record over the last couple years. They've not been able to, get this kind of performance. They've gone to a rookie quarterback who is probably the rookie of the year. How will he, adjust to this gigantic stage? Then again, I say that and know that I think they're going to play loose, and the pressure clearly is on the Lions. The Eagles have been a hard team to get a hold of, just in what they can do. Hurts comes back, and we saw that got out of concussion protocol last week, and the team has another win. But they just seem to have been turbulent all season long. Will that grab them this weekend against a Ram team that I saw win their wild card game against the Vikings on Monday night out in Arizona? The Rams are playing at a very high level. They've got a defense that, of the four teams, might be the most splashy defense. They make big plays. They had 9 sacks against Darnold. They come up with picks. They're constantly pressuring the pocket. This is something that Philadelphia is going to have to contend with. And I would tell you that I guess the least surprising upset would be the Rams, but I would never close my eyes on a team that's playing with house money like the Commanders are, that can get in there, play loose against a team which clearly has been the number one anointed team all season long in the NFC. Does that pressure seep into the way they play?
Well, we'll find out. And obviously, in this time of the year in the NFL, you do have the games that we can focus on, but there's a whole other circus off the field that continues, as you know, Kevin, as different teams look to hire different coaches. And this week, the reports are indicating Deion Sanders, Dallas Cowboys, maybe they'd be a fit. Maybe Deion's interested. Maybe Jerry Jones is interested. What would you make of that idea? Deion Sanders making his pro football debut as a head coach with the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, first of all, Dallas, the problem is not coaching. It never was coaching. The problem is personnel. Their roster is ordinary. And they've got the highest paid quarterback in the league, and his numbers aren't really, over the course of these last 5, 6, 7 seasons, different than Kirk Cousins down in Atlanta. I mean, this is not an elite quarterback. No one would put Dak Prescott in the same sentence with Mahomes, with Jackson, with Josh, clearly, with Burrow. There's no way. And he's not the best quarterback in the NFC. That might be Stafford. So, and then there's an argument for Hurts, and you go right around the horn. I guess I feel like the Cowboys have really gotten themselves in a tough situation. The family wants to make the picks, they want to sign the players, but the results have not been good. It's not been because of coaching. It's because of the kind of players they're getting. And that points directly at the owner and family members and who their personnel staff is. It just has not worked out. And one of the great things about Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, is that they've got solid personnel departments. And that they have continually supplied dealing with cap and winning numbers to find those right players. Now, Cincinnati had a down season, but that's not because of lack of what they've been able to do in the draft and signing players. They just got caught up with the departure of a lot of important defensive players in free agency, which they could not afford because the quarterback's making so much. And so this is what teams are going through. And I don't know how Dallas, which has been challenged so far before they gave Dak Prescott all this money, I don't know how Dallas is now with even more cap restraint going to figure out how to get players in there for whoever is coach. If it's Deion Sanders, if it's the offensive coordinator with the Eagles, who was down there in Dallas for a while calling plays, I don't know. I don't know what they're. I think they put them, and they're a week late. All these other teams with openings have had at least 10 days or more to figure out their court, and going into the coaching interview world. And Dallas is getting a late start, so I think it's going to be incredibly challenging for the Cowboys.
With Kevin Harlan, Kevin, you're a Wisconsin guy. I'm curious how many times you listen to Bob Uecker call Brewers games throughout your life.
I listen to him a lot, actually. As a former player, it's hard to make that transition to play-by-play broadcaster. Some have really done a great job, and Bob Uecker is an example of that. He has learned the craft and not only had a playing career of 6 years, but then he was honored in Cooperstown with the Fort Frick Award, being a member of the Hall of Fame. And listen, you guys have had incredible announcers up in your part of the world, and I would say that in baseball in particular, that voice, and Van Miller was kind of like that for the Bills, and I know that Don Chevrier's. I have a great appreciation for these broadcasters, but Uecker played and then transferred that into calling games. Very difficult to do, to learn a second profession, but he did, and he was terrific at it. And listen, he lived a robust 90 years. We could all hope to live that long and to live that kind of varied and deep and meaningful life that Bob Uecker led. And so it's sad that he has passed, but it's a celebration of what he was for so many years, calling the Brewers and what he meant to baseball overall.
Absolutely. Well said, Kevin. Really appreciate you doing this. I know it's a busy time of year. Thank you, and we'll do it again down the road.
I look forward to it, guys. Thank you so much. Take care.
You got it. There's Kevin Harlan. Again, we've got the NFL playoffs this weekend, and don't forget, every incredible playoff moment on TSN is powered by Bud Light, a refreshing taste that's easy to enjoy. Tune in game day for pulse-pounding action. The great Bob Uecker passing away today at the age of 90. What a life.
54 seasons behind the mic.
54 seasons calling the games.
Incredible. Bonesy was saying he was on his 43rd.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
Long way to go, Bonesy.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. You got 11 more years to catch Bob Uecker. Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. Just an incredible life, incredible career. Harry Doyle from Major League and voice of the Brewers, bunch of commercials he was in. It was awesome.
Oh, man.
Just incredible stuff. Leafs Devils tonight on TSN and on TSN Radio. We'll come back with our best bets on that game. Tee it up one more time. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's best bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The Leafs are paying plus 112. I'm on it tonight.
Home dogs.
Yes, home dogs. I get it. Tavares not playing. They've lost 3 in a row. It hasn't been great. Jake McCabe's back. They've got to respond. They're playing Joe Cool all week. Nothing matters. 3 in a row. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I like the way we're playing. Okay, let's see it. Let's see you show up tonight. I think they show up. I think they win tonight. Plus 112 against Jersey, who hasn't been great either. I'm on the Leafs
I
tonight.
like that bet.
Yeah, I'm on the Leafs. I think it's a smart play. I'm not laying juice for the Devils on the road here. When again, the Leafs are a good team looking to snap out of it. They got to snap out of it.
Who
tonight.
were the Devils? That's the question.
Yeah, well, exactly.
They're no juggernaut.
No, exactly. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 18+, physically located in Ontario. So, yeah, Joseph Woll gets to start tonight. Jake McCabe is back in the lineup. John Tavares on the IR week to week. Just a fluky play. Like Tanev's skate, like their skates connected. And,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Twisted knee to some degree.
Yeah. No real details, but
Week to week.
week to week. So take that for what it's worth with the Leafs. It really, you can say hour to hour, day to day, year to year. It doesn't matter. Like with the Leafs,
Trip
you
to
never
Munich
know.
to trip to Munich.
Yeah. You never really know with the Maple
don't
Leafs,
know.
but we know he's not playing tonight. He won't play Saturday, won't play Monday. Right? It's retroactive to Tuesday night. You got to be out for a week if you go on the IR.
Yeah.
So John's going to miss the next 3 games.
Probably good for him. A little rest.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at his age, he's had a really good year. Yes, rest, but the question is, like, are you going to be laboring when you come back? You know, I don't know. I mean, I'd be nervous if I were him. I'm sure he is. He's not used to missing games. He's pretty durable throughout his career.
Yeah.
You know, you look at, there's his numbers up on TSN too. Like, plays a lot of games, man. Last year he missed 2. The year before he missed 2. The year before he missed 3.
Yeah.
Year before he didn't miss any because that was a lot. That was the COVID bubble.
Yeah.
Like, he really is not a guy prone to missing many hockey games.
No, he missed those playoff games in against the Canadians with the weird.
Yeah, after the
hit
Corey
game
Perry
1.
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's it, man. The guy's
He hasn't
he's
missed
been
a lot.
very reliable.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive what he's done. I mean, we were saying that there was some talk about that today about how a lot of us were wrong when we said, hey, a 7-year deal. 7 years ago, a lot of us said probably regret that one 5-6 years in.
Mm-hmm.
But it hasn't happened. He hasn't had the fall off.
He has pulled his weight in terms of producing, in terms of playing, in terms of conducting himself. You know, the playoffs are what they are. He's lumped in with everyone else. But in terms of point production and predictability, John Tavares has given you everything you could possibly ask.
Yeah, you can argue he was the wrong fit at the wrong time.
Sure.
And put you into a box in terms of salaries for everybody else when you gave him 11. Then the other guys wanted more than 11. And guess what? They got,
Yes.
at least one of them got more than 11. The other one got really close to 11.
And eventually Willie got it,
Willie
too.
got more, too, last year.
Yeah.
A year ago when Willie was on 120-point pace. Now Willie, a year later, is on 80-point pace. Interesting times, I tell you.
I'll bet you, Nylander might want to snap out of it tonight, right? Like, because the focus is on him. Like, year 1 of the 8-year deal, big money. You want to be paid like that, you better show up and play. In his last 10 games, he hasn't been very good.
If only every year could be a contract year for Willie Nylander.
He's great in
Be
the
a
contract
demon.
years. He'd be a demon. All right, Dave, good seeing you, man.
Great seeing you.
There's Dave Feschuk of the Toronto Star. Leafs, Devils coming up right here on TSN Radio, and you can see it on TSN 4 tonight. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, we appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m. We'll chat then.